Tonight our attention turns to two proud nations. England and France meet once again. Not in the World Cup final, but in a match that still carries pride, history, and unfinished business. Sometimes, football is not only about lifting the trophy. Sometimes it is about proving that you belong among the very best. Both England and France arrived at this tournament with one dream: to become world champions. Instead, they now find themselves preparing for one final challenge: a battle for third place. Some people say this match means nothing. History tells us something very different. For many players, this is the last time they will wear the national shirt. For young stars, this is another opportunity to prove they belong on the biggest stage. And for supporters, pride is never a small prize. Before we look ahead to England against France, let's first understand how both teams arrived here. Only a few days ago, France faced Spain in the semi-final. Many expected an evenly balanced contest. Instead, Spain controlled the match from beginning to end. The final score was 2-0. But the numbers only tell part of the story. Spain dictated the rhythm almost every minute. Their midfield never stopped moving. Every passing triangle created another problem for France. France looked dangerous only in short moments. Spain looked comfortable throughout the evening. That was the biggest difference. Spain played with complete control. France played with urgency. And urgency often leads to mistakes. Whenever France tried to increase the tempo, Spain calmly slowed everything down. That patience frustrated the French attack. Their forwards became isolated. Their midfield lost its structure. And little by little, Spain took complete control of the semi-final. For France, it was not a lack of talent. It was a lack of rhythm. A lack of composure. And against a team like Spain, those small details become decisive. France now has one more match. One more chance to leave this tournament with pride. But across the bracket, England experienced heartbreak of a different kind. Against Argentina, England looked ready to reach the World Cup final. For more than an hour, England matched Argentina in every department. They defended with discipline and attacked with confidence. pressing forced Argentina into several uncomfortable moments. The game plan was working almost perfectly. England even found the opening goal. The stadium erupted with belief. For thousands of supporters, the dream suddenly felt real. 90 minutes from history. 90 minutes from another World Cup final. But football has a cruel habit. It often rewards the team that stays calm the longest. Argentina never looked defeated. Even when they trailed, their body language never changed. No panic. No desperate long balls. No emotional reactions. They trusted their structure. They trusted their experience. Most importantly, they trusted each other. As the clock continued to move, England slowly dropped deeper. Not because they wanted to. Because Argentina forced them backward. The pressure became relentless. Wave after wave of attacks. Every clearance returned within seconds. Every defensive action demanded another sprint. England began to lose possession too quickly. That allowed Argentina to build even more momentum. Eventually, the equalizer arrived. It was not a lucky goal. It was the reward for sustained pressure. From that moment, the emotional balance of the match completely changed. Argentina believed they could win. England suddenly had doubts. Those doubts lasted only a few seconds. But at this level, a few seconds are enough. Argentina found the winning goal late in the match. The celebrations were unforgettable. For England, the silence was just as unforgettable. One moment separated joy from heartbreak. That is the reality of knockout football. You can perform brilliantly for 80 minutes. One lapse in concentration can erase everything. Despite the defeat, England showed significant progress throughout this tournament. They defended it with maturity. They attacked with greater variety than in previous competitions. And perhaps most importantly, they demonstrated resilience under enormous pressure. The result was painful. But the performance suggested that England remains one of the strongest teams in world football. Now, both England and France arrive at the same destination. Not the final they dreamed about, but a match that still carries enormous significance. Both teams have questions to answer. Both teams have pride to restore. And both teams know that finishing this tournament with a victory can change the way this campaign is remembered. So, before a single ball is kicked, the biggest battle may already be taking place. Not on the pitch, but inside the minds of the players. Who will recover faster from disappointment? Who will transform frustration into motivation? And who will finish this World Cup with one final statement? Those questions begin to shape this remarkable encounter. In the next chapter, we'll take a closer look at how England and France match up tactically, and where this contest may ultimately be decided. On paper, England and France appear remarkably similar. Both squads are filled with world-class talent. Both teams possess pace, strength, and technical quality. Yet their football identities are completely different. England prefers structure. France thrives on unpredictability. England likes to build patiently from the back. France is far more willing to attack at full speed. That contrast alone could define this entire match. If England controls possession, France will wait for opportunities to counterattack. If France dominates the transitions, England may struggle to recover defensively. Everything begins in midfield. Not because midfielders always score the goals, but because they decide who controls the rhythm. Watch the first 15 minutes carefully. They will reveal each manager's intentions. Will England press aggressively? Or will they remain compact and disciplined? Will France attack immediately? Or invite England forward before striking on the break? Every tactical decision creates another question. Every adjustment forces another response. That is why elite football often resembles a game of chess. The smartest move is rarely the most obvious one. England's biggest strength throughout this tournament has been their collective organization. Very few opponents manage to create clear opportunities. Their defensive shape remained compact under pressure. Players trusted each other's positioning. That trust allowed England to recover possession quickly. France, however, relies much more on individual creativity. One unexpected run, one clever pass, one explosive acceleration. Sometimes that is all France needs. That makes them incredibly dangerous. Even after a disappointing semifinal, their attacking quality cannot be underestimated. England knows that. They cannot afford even a brief lapse in concentration. Because France punishes hesitation. On the other side, France also understands England's biggest weapon, their consistency. England rarely beats themselves. They force opponents to earn every chance. That patience has carried them deep into this tournament. Now it faces perhaps its final examination. Because France possesses enough quality to change the match with a single moment of brilliance. The margin between victory and defeat may be smaller than anyone expects. One interception, one misplaced pass, one perfectly timed run. These tiny moments often decide the biggest matches. And with two elite teams sharing the same field, every decision becomes even more valuable. Let's take a closer look at the mental side of this matchup. Because tactics alone never decide a game like this. The psychological battle begins long before kickoff. England enters this match carrying the pain of letting a semi-final slip away. For more than 70 minutes, they believed they were heading to the final. Then everything changed. Recovering from that kind of defeat is never easy. The players will replay those final moments again and again. Every missed tackle, every misplaced pass, every decision they wish they could make differently. France faces a different kind of disappointment. Against Spain, they were not overwhelmed by emotion. They were outplayed by a team that controlled every phase of the game. That type of defeat often leaves deeper questions. Was the tactical plan good enough? Did the players execute the strategy correctly? Or was Spain simply the better team on the day? Those answers matter. Because confidence is fragile at this stage of a tournament. One defeat can create doubt. Another can shape the way an entire generation is remembered. That is why this match is far more important than many people believe. Finishing third will never replace the dream of becoming world champion. But it can restore belief before the next major tournament. Managers understand this better than anyone. They know the result will influence the atmosphere inside the dressing room for months. Victory creates momentum. Defeat creates difficult conversations. That is why neither side will treat this as a meaningless game. Expect intensity from the opening whistle. Expect aggressive challenges in midfield. Expect players to fight for every second ball. Because every duel sends a message. Every interception builds confidence. Every successful attack increases belief. Momentum rarely appears all at once. It grows through small victories. Patako. A recovery run. A perfectly weighted pass. Championship teams recognize those moments. They know success is built long before the first goal is scored. That mindset will be tested once again. England wants to prove the semi-final was only a painful lesson. France wants to prove they remain one of football's elite nations. Only one team can leave with that statement. And by the end of 90 minutes, the emotional scars of the semi-finals may finally begin to heal. Every great football nation eventually reaches a defining moment. Not when everything is going well. But when disappointment demands a response. That is exactly where England and France stand today. One difficult result does not erase years of progress. But the reaction to that result often defines the future. England's coaching staff will be asking one important question. Can this team recover emotionally in less than a week? The tactical preparation is only one part of the challenge. The emotional preparation may be even more important. France faces a similar situation. The players know they were second best against Spain. Now they have an opportunity to respond immediately. That response begins with attitude. It continues with concentration. And it finishes with execution. Matches between England and France are rarely decided by talent alone. Both squads have enough quality to win on any given day. The difference usually appears in the smallest moments. A runner who tracks back one extra time. A defender who refuses to lose focus. A midfielder willing to receive the ball under pressure. These actions rarely appear in highlight videos. Yet they often determine who wins major tournaments. Football at this level is a game of margins. One misplaced touch can change an entire evening. One intelligent decision can change an entire career. That is why experience matters. Players who have lived through nights like these understand the pressure. They understand when to slow the game down. They understand when to increase the tempo. Most importantly, they understand when to remain calm. And that composure cannot be measured by statistics. But every great team possesses it. England believes this generation has finally reached that level. France believes its championship mentality remains intact. Soon, only one belief will survive. As kickoff approaches, every training session becomes more important. Every tactical adjustment receives extra attention. Every conversation inside the dressing room carries greater meaning. The semifinal is now history. What matters next is the response. Because football always gives great teams one final opportunity. An opportunity to prove that disappointment is only temporary. An opportunity to leave the tournament with heads held high. England and France now stand at exactly that crossroads. Only 90 minutes remain. The next chapter will decide who finishes this World Cup with pride and who leaves still wondering what might have been. Before we predict the outcome of this match, We need to understand one simple truth. Neither England nor France will play this game the same way they approach the semifinals. The emotional burden is different. The tactical priorities are different. Even the mentality inside the dressing room will be different. This is no longer about reaching the World Cup final. It is about proving that the semi-final defeats did not define these teams. England's biggest challenge will be controlling the tempo. Against Argentina, they gradually surrendered possession during the final stages. That allowed pressure to build. Against France, they cannot afford to repeat that mistake. France is at its most dangerous when the game becomes open. They thrive on transitions. They attack with speed. And they punish hesitation. England must force France into longer periods of possession. That may sound unusual, but it limits France's greatest strength. On the other hand, France will try to increase the pace whenever possible. Quick recoveries. Vertical passing. Direct attacks into the final third. If England becomes stretched, France will attack the spaces immediately. That battle between control and transition may become the defining theme of this match. Another key factor will be physical intensity. Both teams have played demanding knockout matches. Recovery time has been limited. Fresh legs from the bench could become decisive during the final 30 minutes. Managers will need perfect timing. Substitute too early. And you lose flexibility. Wait too long. And the opportunity may already be gone. Tournament football rewards brave decisions. Sometimes the winning move comes from the bench. Sometimes it comes from a tactical adjustment. Sometimes it comes from one player refusing to accept defeat. That is why predicting this match is so difficult. The quality is evenly matched. The motivation is unquestionable. And the margin for error is incredibly small. Everything points toward another intense encounter. One that may be decided by a single defining moment. History offers another fascinating perspective on this rivalry. England and France have shared countless memorable encounters. Some were decided by moments of brilliance. Others were decided by costly mistakes. But almost every meeting carried enormous intensity. That history matters. Not because previous matches determine future results, but because rivalries create expectations. Every player understands the significance of wearing these colors. Every supporter expects maximum commitment. That expectation raises the emotional temperature before kickoff. Neither side wants to leave empty-handed. Neither side wants to finish the tournament with another defeat. That urgency could shape the opening exchanges. Don't be surprised if the first 15 minutes are highly competitive. Strong tackles. Quick transitions. Very little time on the ball. Both teams will try to establish authority immediately. Winning early duels can influence confidence. Confidence influences decision-making. Decision-making influences results. That sequence often separates winners from losers. Watch how each team reacts after losing possession. England usually presses in coordinated waves. France often recovers shape before launching another attack. Different philosophies. Different strengths. Both capable of winning against anyone. Another fascinating battle will take place on the flanks. Wide players may determine how much space is available through the middle. Stretch the defense too far. And central passing lanes begin to appear. Defend too narrowly. And dangerous crosses become inevitable. This constant balance between width and compactness is one of modern football's greatest tactical challenges. England has shown excellent discipline throughout this tournament. France has demonstrated exceptional attacking quality. Whichever team imposes its preferred rhythm will take a significant step toward victory. The challenge is making that happen against an opponent equally determined to prevent it. That tension is exactly what makes this matchup so compelling. Two elite teams. Two different football identities. One final opportunity to leave the tournament with pride. Everything is now in place. The only thing missing is the opening whistle. And when that whistle finally arrives, the analysis will end and football will provide the answers. Every tournament eventually reaches a moment when statistics lose their value. Possession percentages become less important. Passing accuracy tells only part of the story. What truly matters is who performs under pressure. England has repeatedly shown resilience throughout this World Cup. Even after difficult moments, they found ways to stay organized. That defensive discipline has become one of their greatest strengths. France approaches matches differently. They are willing to accept greater risk. Because they trust the quality of their attacking players. That confidence has produced spectacular victories. But it has also exposed defensive vulnerabilities. Against Spain, those weaknesses became impossible to hide. England certainly noticed. Expect them to test France with intelligent movement between the lines. Quick combinations. Late runs into the penalty area. Then patient possession whenever opportunities fail to appear immediately. France, meanwhile, will search for moments to attack with pace. One accurate through ball. One explosive sprint. One isolated defender. Those are the situations France wants to create. England's defensive line must remain connected. Communication will be essential. Every player must know exactly when to press. And exactly when to retreat. That balance is easier to describe than to execute. Especially under World Cup pressure. One emotional decision can destroy an entire defensive structure. That is why experienced leaders become invaluable. They recognize danger before everyone else. They organize teammates without hesitation. And they calm the team when emotions begin to rise. Championship football is rarely about perfection. It is about making fewer mistakes than your opponent. England understands that lesson. France understands it as well. The question is, who applies that lesson more effectively? As the countdown to kickoff continues, every tactical conversation grows more detailed. Every player visualizes the first touch, the first tackle, the first opportunity. Because everyone understands one simple truth. Matches of this magnitude are rarely won in spectacular fashion. They are won by teams that remain composed. When the pressure becomes almost unbearable. Every World Cup leaves behind unforgettable stories. Some are stories of triumph. Others are stories of resilience. England and France are now writing one final chapter. Not the chapter they imagined when this tournament began, but perhaps one that reveals even more about their character. Success is easy to celebrate. Adversity reveals who you really are. England has an opportunity to prove that one painful defeat does not define an entire generation. France has an opportunity to demonstrate that elite teams always respond after disappointment. That response begins with mentality. It continues through discipline. And it ends with execution under pressure. Neither manager will ask for perfection. They will ask for commitment. They will ask for concentration. And above all, they will ask every player to trust the plan. Because in matches where quality is evenly balanced, organization often becomes the deciding factor. One player stepping out too early, one defender reacting a fraction too late, one midfielder losing awareness for a single moment. That is sometimes all football needs to change forever. England understands the danger. France understands it too. that shared understanding should produce a fascinating contest. One where patience becomes just as valuable as creativity. One where discipline becomes just as important as talent. And one where experience may ultimately outweigh emotion. As the final preparations continue, supporters around the world begin making their predictions. Some believe England's structure will be the difference. Others believe France possesses greater attacking firepower. Both arguments have merit. That uncertainty is exactly why football captivates billions of people. If outcomes were guaranteed, there would be no reason to watch. Instead, every kickoff creates another possibility. Another unforgettable moment. Another chance for history to surprise us. And that is exactly what England and France hope to achieve. One final performance. One final victory. One final memory to carry home from the World Cup. The stage is set. The anticipation continues to build. And in just a short time, the football itself will tell the rest of the story. Now comes the question every supporter is asking. Who has the tactical advantage? Looking purely at recent performances, England may appear slightly more balanced. Their defensive organization remained impressive throughout the tournament. Even against Argentina, they frustrated one of the world's strongest attacking teams for long periods. The problem arrived late. Fatigue began affecting concentration. The defensive line retreated deeper. Midfield pressure became less aggressive. Argentina sensed the change immediately. Elite teams never need a second invitation. France will certainly study those final 20 minutes. They know England can be pushed backward. The question is whether they have the patience to do it. Against Spain, France struggled whenever possession became slow and controlled. They looked far more comfortable when the game became open. That difference could become crucial. England may intentionally reduce the tempo. Long passing sequences. Patient circulation. Minimal, unnecessary risks. Every additional pass forces France to defend longer. Every defensive movement consumes energy. Tournament football is often decided by accumulated fatigue. Not spectacular moments. Small physical advantages. Small mental advantages. Those margins grow larger as the match continues. If England reaches the final 30 minutes with control, their confidence will increase dramatically. If France succeeds in turning the game into an end-to-end battle, their attacking players become significantly more dangerous. That contrast may become the defining tactical storyline. Another factor cannot be ignored. Set pieces? In tightly contested matches, that ball situations often decide everything. Corners, wide free kicks, second balls inside the penalty area. Both coaching staffs will devote enormous attention to these moments. Because one perfectly delivered cross can erase 90 minutes of tactical planning. Football has always rewarded the team that remains alert. When everyone else begins to lose focus, England and France know exactly how small that margin can be. There is another reason this match deserves attention. It may offer a glimpse into the future of international football. Both England and France possess squads capable of competing for years to come. The average age remains favorable. The depth of talent is remarkable. And the experience gained from this tournament cannot be overstated. Every knockout match leaves behind valuable lessons. Lessons that cannot be learned during training sessions. Pressure changes players. Some discover new levels of confidence. Others realize where they still need to improve. England will likely leave this World Cup believing that they were only a few moments away from reaching the final. France may feel something different. Their challenge is to prove that the defeat against Spain was an exception rather than a warning. That motivation alone should produce an outstanding contest. Neither side wants to leave the tournament with consecutive defeats. Professional pride matters. National pride matters even more. Supporters may remember the champion forever. But players remember every World Cup they have played. Every opportunity is precious. Many outstanding footballers never experience another one. That reality creates urgency. Not desperation. Urgency. The difference is important. Desperate teams abandon their identity. Urgent teams remain disciplined. England has shown discipline throughout this competition. France has repeatedly demonstrated the ability to respond after setbacks. Those qualities should combine to create an intelligent tactical battle. Not every memorable match ends with 5 goals. Some become unforgettable because of the tension. Because every decision feels decisive. Because every attack carries genuine danger. England against France has all the ingredients to become exactly that kind of match. The disappointment of the semifinals is now behind them. The opportunity ahead is clear. Finish the World Cup with determination. Finish with belief. Finish with a performance worthy of 2 of football's greatest nations. Everything is prepared. Now the players must write the final chapter themselves. Because once the referee blows the whistle, predictions no longer matter. Only performance remains. And performance is the language every football fan understands. There is one final element that cannot be measured on any tactical board. Belief. Every successful World Cup campaign is built on it. Players believe in the system. Managers believe in their decisions. Supporters believe until the final whistle. England's confidence has grown with every round of this tournament. Despite the semi-final defeat, this squad has demonstrated maturity beyond its years. France possesses a different kind of confidence. A confidence built through years of competing on football's biggest stages. That experience can never be underestimated. Especially when emotions begin to rise. Football often rewards the team that keeps a clear mind. Even when everything around them becomes chaotic. One calm decision. One accurate pass. One disciplined defensive action. These moments rarely appear on highlight reels. Yet they often become the true foundation of victory. As the match approaches, both managers will deliver one final message. Forget the semi-final. Forget the criticism. Forget the disappointment. Focus only on the next 90 minutes. Because football always offers another opportunity. The greatest teams are not remembered for avoiding setbacks. They are remembered for the way they responded. England now has that opportunity. France has exactly the same opportunity. That shared determination should create a fascinating contest. One that demands intelligence as much as talent. One that rewards patience as much as courage. And one that reminds us why international football remains so special. Different styles. Different philosophies. The same ambition. To finish with pride. To reward the supporters. To leave the tournament with a performance worthy of the badge. Whatever the final score may be, this match represents more than a bronze medal. It represents resilience. It represents character. And it represents one final opportunity to inspire millions watching around the world. The countdown is almost over. The players are ready. The supporters are ready. Now let the football decide the rest. Before the first whistle, there's always one final question. Who will seize the moment? Big tournaments are remembered for defining performances. Not because they were expected. Because someone chose to rise above the pressure. England has players capable of controlling the rhythm. France has players capable of changing the game in a single action. That balance makes prediction extremely difficult. If England succeeds in dictating possession, they will gradually increase their control of the match. If France succeeds in creating transitions, their attacking quality could become overwhelming. The opening 20 minutes may reveal everything. Whichever team settles first, will immediately gain a psychological advantage. Confidence spreads quickly. So does uncertainty. That invisible battle often decides visible results. This is why football remains impossible to predict. Every statistic tells part of the story. Every tactical plan creates possibilities. But once the ball begins to roll, instinct often becomes more important than preparation. Want an inspired performance? One unforgettable save? One perfectly timed finish? That may be all it takes. England and France both understand the opportunity before them. One final match. One final challenge. One final opportunity to finish the World Cup on a positive note. Regardless of the outcome. Both nations have demonstrated why they remain among football's elite. Now comes the final examination. Not of talent, but of mentality. The answer will arrive soon enough. And when the final whistle sounds, only one team will walk away believing they ended this tournament the right way. As we move closer to kickoff, the conversation naturally turns toward prediction. Not simply who will win, but how the match is likely to unfold. England may begin with greater control of possession. Their approach throughout this tournament has emphasized patience. Building attacks carefully. Avoiding unnecessary risks. Waiting for defensive gaps to appear. France is unlikely to challenge that strategy immediately. Instead, they may choose to remain compact during the opening stages. Protect central spaces. Then attack rapidly after recovering possession. If that pattern develops, the first goal becomes incredibly important. Should England score first, they can dictate the tempo with far greater confidence. France would then be forced to attack more aggressively. That could create additional opportunities on the counterattack. However, if France finds the opening goal, the tactical picture changes completely. England would need to increase the tempo. Take greater risks. Come in more players forward. Those risks naturally create space. Exactly the type of space France enjoys attacking. This is why the first breakthrough may influence everything that follows. Discipline will remain essential until the very end, especially after what both teams experienced in the semifinals. England knows the danger of losing concentration late. France understands the consequences of allowing opponents to dominate possession. Those recent lessons should produce a smarter performance from both sides. Perhaps a more cautious one as well. That does not necessarily mean fewer chances. It simply means each opportunity becomes even more valuable. The margins at this level are incredibly small. One intelligent movement. One courageous decision. One perfectly executed finish. That could ultimately separate the two teams. Whatever happens, expect a match defined by quality. Intelligence. And the determination of two proud football nations unwilling to leave empty-handed. Now let's move beyond tactics and focus on the players themselves. Big matches are often remembered because one individual rises above the rest. Not necessarily the biggest star, but the player willing to accept the greatest responsibility. England will need leaders in every area of the pitch, not just the captain. Every defender must communicate. Every midfielder must demand the ball under pressure. Every attacker must be prepared to work without possession. That collective effort has been one of England's greatest strengths. France, meanwhile, has often relied on moments of individual brilliance. A sudden acceleration, a perfectly timed pass, a finish that leaves the goalkeeper with no chance. Those moments can change an entire match. But they are difficult to predict. That unpredictability is exactly what makes France so dangerous. England cannot afford to switch off for even a few seconds. Concentration must remain absolute. From the opening whistle until the referee signals full time. One lapse could decide everything. France faces the same challenge. England's patient build-up can slowly wear opponents down. Every successful passing sequence demands another defensive adjustment. Another sprint. Another moment of concentration. As fatigue increases, those adjustments become more difficult. That is often when decisive spaces appear. Elite football is not always about creating space. Sometimes it is simply about recognizing it before anyone else. That awareness separates outstanding players from great players. As this contest approaches, both coaching staffs will remind their players of one final principle. Trust your preparation. Trust your teammates. Trust yourself. Because once the game begins, there's no time left for doubt. Only decisions. Only execution. Only football. As we reach the final moments of our preview, one question still remains unanswered. Which team has learned the most from its semi-final defeat? England will reflect on the final 20 minutes against Argentina. They allowed momentum to slip away. They defended deeper than they intended. They struggled to keep possession when it mattered most. Those lessons cannot be ignored. France will study a very different defeat. Spain denied them control of the midfield. They limited France's opportunities to attack in transition. They forced France to play a game they never truly enjoyed. That experience may influence every tactical decision in this match. Neither coach wants to repeat the same mistakes twice. That is why adaptation becomes so important. Great teams never stop evolving. Even during a tournament. Every match teaches a new lesson. Every opponent reveals a different challenge. England and France now arrive with valuable experience. The question is, who will apply it more effectively? Expect both teams to begin cautiously. Not because they lack ambition. Because they understand the cost of early mistakes. As confidence grows, the tempo is likely to increase. The spaces will become larger. The challenges more aggressive. Eventually, one team will discover the opening it has been searching for. Whether that opportunity becomes the winning goal, or simply another chapter in this fascinating rivalry, will depend entirely on execution. Preparation has already finished. The analysis is complete. Now comes the only part that truly matters. The players. The decisions. The moments that no one can predict. Because that is the beauty of football. Football has never promised certainty. That is exactly why billions continue to watch. Every kickoff begins with possibilities. Not guarantees. England understands how quickly a match can change. They experienced that lesson against Argentina. France learned a different lesson against Spain. Control is just as important as creativity. Now both teams carry those lessons onto the pitch. Every pass will have a purpose.